Sorry if I smell like bacon. I just came out of the Maine Police Headquarters. If you're catching that aroma of pork, it's because I was in the belly of the beast. Hello, Norma. Probably just wait a minute here before I get on the freeway and then I'll start babbling. Yeah, I just went into the Maine police station to try to do a records request. I had in my mind that I would be able to, fill out some form. Hey, Prince, fill out some form, piece of paper, and say this is what I want, this is what happened, this is what I'm looking for, and that would at least start the process. And I was sadly mistaken. I kind of thought open records meant that anything that happens, anything that they write is a public record, and so you should be able to request it. And just even from when I went up to the window and asked, I said I want to do a records request, they're like, they didn't know what to do. It's like, records request? What are you talking about? What are you looking for? And so I laid out the things I'm looking for: the body cam footage, the telephone calls, the arrest reports, the written reports from written statements from the people that were there, the computer dispatch information. And so basically, after about 5 minutes of talking to the guy, he printed off the rules that they have, sort of how requesting body cam footage works. He printed that out for me and then sort of explained. We got to the point where what I need to do there is go first and request the dispatch, the computerized dispatch record that's tied to the event number that I'm looking for. And then through that, after I have that, then I can go and start requesting specific things, that are tied to that report. Apparently that's the way they envision it working. So with the body cam footage, you can see they have all these rules. So basically, you could be one of three types of parties, right? You could be the involved party. Let me just answer this like 30 minutes or so. Oh, right on, Nelly. Welcome. Thanks for subbing. Appreciate it. So anyways, when it comes to the body cam footage, you're one of three parties, right? You're either the media, you're the involved party, or you're just the general public. And so they sort of have, sets of rules for each one. So the rules are pretty similar. But basically what it comes down to is you make your written request for the body cam footage that you want. Then they go ahead and they pull together that footage. And then you have to come down to the police station, watch the footage inside of a little room where you're not allowed to bring any electronic recording equipment at all. And you sort of, I guess, get to verify that what they have is what you want, or you tell them what parts of it you want. Then they give you a cost associated with them processing it. You pay for it, and then they go ahead and generate that footage. And then at some point then down the road, you can get that footage after they've put it together and, I don't know, put it on burned it to a DVD or whatever. So again, I kind of just had this fantasy that you could just fill out a piece of paper, write down on a piece of paper and say, this is what I'm looking for, and then they would just give it to you. But apparently, yeah, it's far more complicated than that. So it's going to be a learning process. It's going to take a bit of time. Everybody, I see all the keyboard warriors are like, oh, you have a great lawsuit, sue these guys, request this, request that. There's definitely a learning curve to figuring out their rules and what they're going to give you and what they're not. I mean, the officer that I talked to today was basically approaching everything from the position of, that basically he's trying to tell me you're not even allowed to have footage unless it involves you. That was basically what he was trying to say, which I don't think he's bothered to read his own rules, because again, you could always request something as a member of the media, and we qualify as media, or even the general public is allowed to just request footage. So really, he was talking about them cutting out and them only giving you stuff that involved you, but really what he was wrong about that, according to his rules. Really, the case is you can choose to have your personal information redacted out of anything that you request. So that's, I think, what he was trying to get to. 2-year backlog on body cam footage. Yeah, that's funny. And they deleted it after 6 months. Yeah, that sounds about right. So that's why there's supposed to be all this transparency. And I told him when he was giving me his little spiel about the body cam footage, I was like, well, this doesn't bode very well for transparency. It doesn't show very well for transparency. And he said, oh, this police department's great. LVP MPD is great. They're like 10 times better than other places I've been. He's like, other places I've been, they don't give you anything. He's like, I think they give you too much information here. So, again, just like, we sort of have this fantasy that it's like we live in a democracy and we get to pick, select our leaders, and we have the freedom to vote and choose. I've always had this fantasy that, FOIA, Freedom of Information, Act allows me to request information, and, the state has open records. And I see that, they're going to throw up obstacles at every turn. Go to the city and state, get the plot location number assigned to you, and hey, cannot say you were there, not clear. Do that trick a lot. Yeah. I'm gonna have to read through these comments then, because hey Carlos, welcome. Because yeah, it's like a real there's a lot of obstacles they can throw up. So I'm willing to kind of put the time in and try to figure out the system. At one point, told me, well, what should I do this? And it's like, well, I don't have a lawyer. I just, person that wants to get some phone calls and some phone call video, information that I should be able to get if there truly is open record. So it's probably going to take a little while. But what I was going to say, if you kind of people like to sit back and say you need to sue, you need to do this, you need to file a complaint, like it's more difficult than that, And I'm starting to learn. I was that person, and I've typed that comment a million times. Well, just you've got a great case, get a lawyer and sue. And it's like, the first obstacle is you finding a lawyer that's willing to even represent you in a civil case against the police department. That's going to be the challenge number one. Driver's license, jury duty, yeah. Yeah, one of the things he brought up was that the newspaper here, the Review-Journal, is actually in a lawsuit with and he said, well, if they can't get it, they're a big corporation. What are you going to do as a little individual? And it's like, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's absolutely the truth. So maybe we can shine a little light, though, on the lack of transparency, on the lack of openness, even if we just do it through YouTube. But I'm willing to persist in this, because I would really like to see a light shined on this guy. I mean, he's dangerous, officer. Like I said, how many? And they get away with it. But like I said, it all sounds easy. Go down there, fill out a complaint, do this, do that, and They've already been through this a million times. They know all the ways to kind of trip you up and make it difficult and throw obstacles in your path. So, it's not always just as easy as like snapping your fingers. I'd be curious based on the video. I need to talk to Las Vegas Free Press and just see what he thinks about a civil suit. Because everyone talks about suing for like Title 18, 42, and the deprivation of your rights under color of law. And clearly that happened to us, right? Like we were filming and we were kicked out of the post office, and then, the cops came and basically turned all of our cameras off, and stopped us from filming. And so it seems like we would have a case under that Title 18, but whether, trying to actually make that occur, I know it's gonna be probably a couple years, right, before you could actually get through the process and get to the point where they were either gonna settle or try to go to trial. But I think they would never go to trial; they would just settle. But it's not a simple process by any means, And as far as and really the other thing I'm trying to undo is, I got trespassed from the post office. That's my post office. That's where I have to go pick up packages. If somebody sends me a package or whatever and the postman doesn't leave it, like that's where I have to go pick it up. So how the hell am I supposed to do that when I've been trespassed from the post office? And how the hell did I get trespassed when they asked me to leave? I left, and then the cops roll up there, and I'm not on the property, and so now I've been trespassed, and so I'm trying to undo that. And I think if I talk to the right people at the postal inspector's office, I think I can get some headway into that. But that's even proven to be a challenge. Just calling and getting a hold of a person and pleading your case and having them contact you back. So it's all very, very what crime did I commit? I did not commit any crimes. Filming in the police, there was no, so what Officer Farrington said was that someone who called claimed that one of us pushed a postal employee, and then a second employee verified that, and so they falsely claimed that we battered a postal employee, and so that's what he used as the justification for he could immediately detain us, he could ID us, and he could do all of this good stuff. Immigrants, he does videos on audits and getting that FOIA Act. Yeah, I will check that out for sure. That's press guy. Sorry, I'm just trying to read this and not crash. Normal. Yeah, I'll come back and I'll definitely check that guy out. USPS is a bunch of stamp lickers. Yeah. So anyways, we're out and about trying. It's not like, because like I said, I read all these comments where it's like, sue this, file a complaint, do this, do that. It's like, okay, I filed the complaint. I'm trying to get together the information for, because I think before I even try to go to a lawyer, like, I'd like to have just more ammunition than just I know the video is one thing. But it would be different if I had video of like the entire episode, like everything that Officer Farrington said to me, what the supervisor said to me, because those guys spun a lot of bullshit out. Basically, we asked to talk to the supervisor. So the supervisor waited until they had already done all the investigating and everything, and then he came and he talked to me. And basically what he told me was, when the police come, you need to turn off your camera, you stop filming, and comply, and do what the police tell you. And that was it. That was his basic answer. And I was kind of shell shocked. I didn't challenge him. I probably should have, challenged him and said like, well, where's your oath to uphold the Constitution? And you're just, how many of my rights did you violate here? And then really, and you're telling me that I should just comply. So, that's what the rapist says too, right? Just shh, don't fight back, and it'll go easier. I stole that from John Felix, if anybody's not familiar with that. Um, but anyways, and so I'm gonna go back there and do that records request, but I'm gonna go back in the morning, show up there at 7 a.m. See that the same customer service office, right, where you're doing a records request. People have to go down there to get what are called work cards. So in Nevada, they have these things called sheriff's cards or work cards. And so if you're gonna work anywhere where there's gaming or gambling, or anywhere where they serve alcohol, I think food is like a different thing. Like you got to go to the health department and get a card from them. But basically, they take your fingerprints, they do a background check, and then they give you, this what I call a supplemental slave card. So your ID, your driver's license, your state ID or whatever is like your slave card that they expect you to just carry around all the time and produce on demand. Show us your slave card, but in Nevada, you've got to have this other separate work permit, work card. And so the vast majority of the people that were there in that lobby were all waiting to get their work cards. And so I figure if I show up at 7 in the morning, then I have a far better chance of getting into the line early and not having to wait around forever. And now I know I should be filming right from the beginning when I go in there. And the other thing I need to do is make sure that when I say I want a records request, that I'm just going to tell her I just want the CAD request, the computer, I forget what he called it, a computer dispatch record for my event, and just start there. They said you pay $10, you get that record, and then from there you're able to request the other information like the telephone calls and the radio traffic and all that stuff. So I'm not going to bother with trying to say too much to the people at the window there, and just like I said, request, get that CAD thing, and then once I'm at the window with the woman getting the CAD thing, then I can start asking about everything else. But yeah, I'm sitting here getting ready to Las Vegas Free Press is going to come down on James Freeman. We're going to go do some auditing, cop watching. Let's see, Susan should be around here. So let me try to just read these comments now that I stopped. Stamp liquors, yeah. Yeah, pug face. They don't want people recording the secret stamps and bubble envelopes. Exactly. Yeah, strippers need those cards. Yeah, I noticed. I was like, there was a lot of them, and I was like, man, these must be hookers that are in trouble, right? Because I seen all these chicks in there, and I'm like, oh, there's hookers that are in trouble, and they're trying to get records or something. But really, that makes more sense that strippers are have to apply for those work cards too, or sheriff's cards. Yeah, I'm kind of Desiree. I'm kind of compulsive about comments, and I don't know if when it gets busier and they're more in their and there's a higher volume, I may not be able to keep up with it. But I try to read every comment, and I'm pretty tolerant. The people that are like cop lickers and like that say we should get a job, or say whatever they have to say, I usually don't delete those. But I will say, like, if you make a negative comment about somebody, like somebody said something negative about Susan, I'm just gonna delete that. And the other thing is, I see comments where people are sort of trying to like sow division between auditors. and I might delete those too. Um, but I try to read. Ooh, I like that you got that complaint form. Thank you for that, Finbar, because I was looking all over the website and I couldn't find anything like that. So that'll be helpful. I'll come back. Labor relations, violent and threatening behavior. There must be no tolerance for harassment, intimidation, threats, or bullying by any employee at every level. Yeah, seems like yep, seems like a thing, Martin. Yeah, Desiree, I know I don't try to answer every comment, but I do, like I said, I try to read everyone's. The other ones I tamp down on, like if you make a threat, like I'm gonna kill cops or something like that, I just I understand the sentiment where people, propose violence, but I think a lot of that is just, one, it's non-productive. Like, in fact, it's counterproductive because, my one belief is like the people that sit around and type things and they say, I would shoot a cop, or if a cop tried to arrest me falsely, like I would defend myself. I think to myself, that's the last person that is actually going to do something, is the person that's sitting behind a keyboard typing. And the second part is, I've seen this many, many times where good videos get taken down from YouTube because people complain about the comments, right? Um, People make threats, and then they turn around and they use that to reinforce the meme of, oh, it's so dangerous to be a police officer. Oh, we're under such threat. Oh, the people are out to get us. And they use that to reinforce the meme. Never mind the fact that cops kill people at 100 times the rate that people kill cops, right? It's 100 to 1. 1,000 people a year die at the hands of police, you know, and it's like a dozen the other way of people killing police officers. And the idea, that it gets said all the time, oh, policing's a dangerous activity. They just want to go home at the end of their shift. Being a garbage man is more dangerous than being a police officer. Being a roofer is more dangerous than being a police officer. Being a fisherman is more dangerous than being a police officer. Police officer doesn't even make the top 10. And the thing that makes policing dangerous is the fact that they drive in vehicles and they drive around and they get in crashes like other driving jobs. And so, but that's a theme that they use to push the paranoia, to push the suspicion, and that's why they need to be more vigilant. That's why they need to be more suspicious. So I have a I haven't deleted very many like hating on cop comments, but I might crack down more. The other thing is that then when you get into trouble or something happens and then they go back through and they dig through and they look at your stuff, like you're sort of responsible for the comments that are on your page. That's how the legal system looks at it. I've seen that in court cases where the judges have kind of broken out and used comments that were made on people's pages to jam them up. Yeah, that's a good way to be, Desiree. Good way to be. Um, yeah, and I'm not, like I said, I don't think advocating violence is the solution. Because I mean, they have a lot of the guns. They have a lot. They have the system in place. They have the jails. They have all this stuff. So I think a lot of times when people are advocating violence, it's just from a place of frustration and a place where you feel like there's nothing else you could do. Um, I see a lot of like revolutionary comments, people wanting to topple the system, and I don't even necessarily disagree with that. But I think that, really, if you wanted to topple the system that we have now, you wouldn't go to work. Like if you could get everybody to just stop going to work, stop buying stuff, and stop using the internet for like 3 days, they'd come. There would be big concessions, and things would, they would have to try to change things. But um, outside of that, I really think that if there's, I mean, because I lived in my time, right? I saw, what limited pushback there was against going to the Iraq War in 2003. So there was some protests, some staging, and then the other big like protest movements that I've seen in my lifetime, where one was the people that were against the World Trade Organization, and so they would go do WTO protests. There was a big one in Seattle, the battle in Seattle, and yeah, right, Norma. That's another thing today, right? But those, that, and then the other one, the one that's most recent, right, was in the last economic downturn. There was Occupy Wall Street, and if you want to go watch some interesting videos, go watch like the Oakland. They did those Occupy Wall Street marches for months there, and so you can see how the police reacted to it. I mean, they reacted violently. They're throwing flashbang grenades at people. They're shooting people with rubber bullets. And so I think that outside of having 10,000 people or 20,000 people show up to a protest march, you're not really going to be able to be effective, because they're just going to roll out with a superior. I mean, most of the when I see the people at protests or they have marches, and this was even the case when the Occupy Wall Street was going on, you see like an equal number of cops through there. Oh yeah, the Watts riots. Yeah, that was real. That was real, like those Watts riots. That was real, where like there was real destruction of property. There was real, like, people turned out in violence. That's '60s. That was a pressure cooker time, and I think we've come back to, full circle to like another pressure cooker time. I mean, on the surface, oh, hey, Stray Dog, how's it going? On the surface, it appears like everybody's happy, right? Everybody's chasing the American dream. They go, they're getting their jobs, they're going out, and they're buying cheap stuff at Walmart. And but I think that there was this thing that happened in the Soviet Union, right? Before the Soviet Union broke up, and it was called like hyper-normalization, right? Because people knew the system was broken, right? They could tell. They go to the store, they try to buy toilet paper, there's no toilet paper. They wait in line all day to try to get stuff, to try to get products they need. And so everybody could see, like, the system was broken. But nobody wanted to face up to, well, what's going to happen when, it changes, or when it comes down, or the people who are in charge now aren't in charge anymore, and then there's just anarchy. And I think I believe this, and maybe I'm just paranoid, or maybe I'm totally off, but I really believe like the United States is in the same boat. And I believe like people go around and they look and they go, oh yeah, everything's great. I can watch football on TV, and I can watch my Netflix or whatever. But really, like, you drive around, and I don't know how it is where you live, but where I live, there's homeless people everywhere. There's people, you can't, you work for $8 an hour or $10 an hour. The cost of living is just tremendous. So I don't see how anybody's able to, have a vehicle, pay for rent, pay for childcare, and then have anything left over. It's something like, they say it's something like 80% of the workers in this country are like one paycheck away. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They're one medical emergency away from complete bankruptcy. And but really, like, the media is never going to tell you that. The media is going to tell you, oh, look, the stock markets did this today or it did that today. And for the most part, everybody's chugging along. Wages have been stagnant for 40 years, 50 years now, right? Millennials are the first generation where they're not better off than their parents. They're not better off than their parents. They're getting, back, Norma could tell you this, right back in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, right? You could have a blue collar job. A man could work a blue collar job and he could support his wife, he could support his children, he could save money, he could he could send his kids to college, and he could make things better. And now anymore, like if you have it's difficult, right? And so now millennials, they've kind of given up on home ownership. They've given up on owning vehicles, and yeah. And then the system, right, is just trying to squeeze you at every point. Um, the cops have turned into revenue generating agents, pulling people over and shaking them down, trying to get fees out of them. Yeah, Desiree, I remember duck and cover, desk drills. We never really did that, but I remember as a kid growing up, like I grew up in the 70s, and they at my elementary school they had an air raid siren basically, and so every Saturday at 12 noon they would test out the air raid siren and it would go off. Um, but yeah, we were raised with that fear of that fear of the Russians and that fear of nuclear war. Right, there was going to be a nuclear war. The Soviets had 10,000 nuclear weapons. We had 10,000 nuclear weapons pointed at them. And so that's why I say you can't scare me about, oh, Al Qaeda might get one nuke, because, they already scared me when I was a kid about the end of the world from nuclear destruction. But anyways, let me go try to find Susan. She's parked around here somewhere. Thank you guys for all jumping on here. Yeah, straight hug. The 80s, yeah. War games. Oh, exactly. Oh, Susan's watching. Okay. Now Cricket's texting me. I'm going sky high with my gigabyte usage. But anyways, yeah, transparency I think is just like the other things, like we purport to support free speech here. We purport to support the freedom of assembly. We purport to have the rule of law. But when you really kind of dig through all of these different things, you kind of find out it's like, well, yeah, you kind of got the freedom of speech until you piss off the wrong people, or the rule of law. Everybody follows the rule of law except the sovereign police that don't follow the rule of law, or the corrupt, whether it's a city entity or a county entity or corporations. That's the other thing is, the when you look at the criminal justice system, right? It's something like 97% of the people take a plea bargain from prosecutors, rather than go to trial. And that's because the DA has the power to undo that, that you could be looking at a year in jail. And when they offer you, hey, we'll just give you probation, that's like, that seems like a godsend to some people, and where they feel like, oh my God, if I actually fight this and I go to trial, I could go to jail for a year. Hey, thanks Dallas for subbing, appreciate it. Or Dallas, I'm sorry if I don't need Dalankness. Yeah, a fellow. What are we? We're Gen Xers, right? I think Gen Xers, because I don't feel like baby boomer. I feel like I was after baby boomers, but I don't know. Sometimes we get stuck in as baby boomers. Sometimes we're but it's Generation X.